Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Canadian Nuclear Isotope Council webinar. My name is Evan Cameron, and I'm the Manager of Public Affairs and Communications here at the CNIC. Thank you all for joining us this morning on World Theranostics Day for this exciting discussion. At the CNIC, we talk a lot about hope. The power of hope is what propels our Isotopes for Hope campaign and its ambitious goal to double Canada's isotope production by 2030. When I think about Canada's isotope ecosystem and the hope that isotope innovation provides to patients and families globally, it's hard to imagine anything more hopeful than the promise of Theranostics. Targeted, personalized cancer diagnosis and therapy, resulting in fewer side effects, shorter hospital stays, and more time with loved ones. That is what drives our Isotopes for Hope campaign and the CNIC's work more broadly. Throughout today's discussion, I hope you learned something new about how CNIC members are enabling this critical cancer care globally. However, you are not here today to listen to me. You are here to hear from our remarkable panelists. Before I introduce you to them, a brief housekeeping point. I want to remind you all that Microsoft Teams has a Q&A function that we'll be using for today's webinar. You can submit your questions throughout the event, and the panel will address them towards the end of the discussion. With that out of the way, allow me to introduce you to our distinguished panelists. Rob Cameron is a nuclear medicine technologist by training. Professionally, Rob worked for 15 years at University Health Network in nuclear medicine, patient flow, and clinical utilization. Rob served as the nuclear medicine lead quality assessor for the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, as well as an assessor with Accreditation Canada. A health innovator, Rob holds multiple patents for medical devices related to the shielding of radioactive isotopes used in the diagnosis and treatment of cancer. Rob is a founder of Neshama Hospice, Synergy QMP, and Southwest Exposures. Gidea Shabasi is the Director of Business Development at Adam V Global Radiopharma, and previously at the parent company of Adam V, CPDC. She leads a business development team that is focused on client acquisitions, partnerships, and account management, as well as marketing and communications. Gidea joined CPDC in 2019, and prior to that, she had several experiences in the commercialization of antibodies and biologics, as well as cell and gene therapies. Gidea holds a PhD in biochemistry from the University of Toronto, followed by a postdoctoral fellowship in cancer signaling pathways at the FIRC Institute of Molecular Oncology. Dr. Travis Bassanger has 20 years of experience in the commercialization of radiopharmaceuticals and medical isotope products and services. He currently serves as Vice President of Medical Isotopes at Kinetrix, where he leads the company's medical isotope business. In this role, Dr. Bassanger has overseen several groundbreaking initiatives, including the implementation of the isotope production system at the Bruce Nuclear Generating Station, developed in partnership with Framatome and Bruce Power, which represents the world's first commercial-scale production of lutetium-177 using a power reactor. He also led the establishment of a commercial-scale stable isotope enrichment platform in Toronto, enabling the production of ytterbium-176 and other stable isotopes. And last but certainly not least, Tammy Hudson is the Zone Manager and Provincial Lead of Nuclear Medicine and Nuclear and Molecular Medicine, with Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services in St. John's, Newfoundland. She spent 20 years practicing as a nuclear medicine technologist, where she held key roles including radiation safety officer and lead technologist before transitioning into management in 2014. Tammy is passionate about leading diverse teams and collaborating with clinical experts to enhance patient care, and is driven by the opportunity to contribute to leading-edge healthcare research, and finds great fulfillment in making a meaningful difference in the lives of patients and their families. And that's really what it's all about, right? Now that you've met our wonderful panelists, let's jump right into the discussion. Travis, I'll come to you first. Kinetrix offers Canadian solutions at several stages of the Theranostics supply chain, thinking of the things I mentioned earlier, stable isotopes, the isotope production system, hot cells, etc. Could you provide a bit of an overview, a broad overview maybe, of Kinetrix's work in the field and how it's expanded as the sector has grown?
Sure. Thanks, Evan. And good morning to my fellow panelists and our audience today. Nice to be here to talk about a topic that's dear to my heart, Theranostics. And it's nice to have an event celebrated once a year. So Kinetrix is a relatively, I'd say, new entrant into the medical isotopes and Theranostics space. We had started our medical isotope programs about 7 years ago. And the first program which we got out of the gates and mobilized was in partnership with Framatome and Bruce Power, as well as our client ITM at Isotopes in Germany, to set up for the first time a production or radiation service at a power reactor. I'm sure this audience knows that traditionally medical isotopes, and at least those produced in reactors, were produced in research reactors. We have a lot of history in that space at Chalk River, of course, up until the NRU reactor was taken out of service a number of years ago. And the research reactor fleet across the world, including at McMaster University, had really had to pick up the slack. But there was a gap needed in the industry, and there's certainly a large increase in demand of certain medical isotopes. And one of the most important theranostic isotopes, lutetium-177, being the therapy end of the diagnostic therapeutic pair. So we set off. Kinetrix is a company of over 1,000 engineers. I think we're close to 1,400 now. Engineers and scientists of every single discipline, physics, chemistry, you name it. And we had a lot of experience in how to implement changes on CANDU reactors. I came into Kinetrix not knowing anything about CANDU reactors, but some things about medical isotopes, and was fortunate enough to lead the team to get the isotope production system designed, fabricated, and commissioned at the site. So it's a large engineering project, as well as a lot of focus and effort put on to the safety and licensing of that system at the Bruce Power site. As you know, the regulators are always very concerned that we're keeping everything safe, that the reactor is going to operate without any issues. So there's another major program in proving that out and doing the modeling, safety analysis for the system. So that was early days for Kinetrix. I think it was about a 3-year program, start to finish, to get isotope production started. We're now, I think, into our 3rd year of commercial lutetium production at Bruce Power. A very reliable production. We're supplying what I would think would be the majority of the lutetium-177 globally right now, and have a big impact on products like Pluvicto and Thera. And we're looking to expand the isotope portfolio on that system in the years to come to other therapeutic isotopes relevance. Along the way, we also noted that there was the key feed material for lutetium-177 production, being ytterbium-176 at that time, was really coming predominantly out of Russia. So given that Kinetrix has a lot of physics and engineering capabilities, we stood up a team to then design and commission our own isotope separation systems or enrichment systems for stable isotopes. So that was another multi-year program, which now has culminated into a fleet of isotope separators, which we have here in Toronto. Again, great example of Kinetrix engineering and physics prowess. We're now entering our 2nd year of ytterbium production, and have scaled up our systems from 1 to 5 and continue to scale through this year to meet growing ytterbium demands, as well as look at the next generation isotopes. Gadolinium-160 is on our pipeline for the year ahead, which will be a key feed material for ytterbium-161, which I'd like to see as one of the next important therapeutic isotopes in the Theranostics domain. So that's been really the key programs over the last 7 years. We have other R&D programs as well, and looking at those next generation theranostic products. And of course, that'll be done a lot in partnership with our sister company, BWXT Medical, who has a lot of capabilities in isotope production in Vancouver and Canada. So lots of synergies there and collaboration.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Travis. That was a really thorough overview. Gideon, I'll come to you next. If we just continue moving down the isotope supply chain, perhaps. AtomV Global Radiopharma has obviously emerged as a global leading GMP manufacturer of several critical theranostic isotopes. Similar to what I asked Travis, could you provide a bit of an overview of how AtomV supports your clients and patients across Canada and indeed around the world?
Absolutely. Thank you, Evan. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this panel with all my fellow panelists. And as a CNIC member, it's always exciting to take part in these conversations, especially on a special day like today. The flow is great in this case. So Travis set the scene very nicely for me to come in and tell you a bit about the success story that AtomV Global Radiopharma, or AtomV, celebrates. So I should start from the very beginning, which is where AtomV spun out, obviously was from CPDC, which is the Center for Probe Development and Commercialization. That CSER is McMaster-based, and at CPDC, which was founded in 2008 as a non-for-profit organization, we built a legacy of where AtomV basically stems from today. So if we take you back to what we built in the GMP manufacturing expertise, we started that unit at CPDC around the 2014 sort of timeframe. And since then, we have developed what I call world-class expertise in the GMP manufacturing of radiopharmaceuticals. Now, as you all know, the infancy of this industry was quite focused on the diagnostics in the early days. And in fact, CPDC had its own pipeline of radiodiagnostics. FDG was one of them. And we've built a lot of our GMP experience manufacturing our own FDG. However, we started to work on radiotherapeutic manufacturing in 2014 at CPDC. And since then, we have tremendously grew that skill set and began acquiring more of these sponsored programs and working with a number of companies that I know Travis also crossed paths with, because he was at CPDC before I joined. So we're all connected in some way. And then fast forward, obviously, over a decade of experience that we have really became reputable for, I would say, as leaders in the GMP manufacturing, which is not obviously a trivial skill set to have in the industry. And in August of 2022, we managed to successfully spin out AtomV, which is a for-profit company that basically took the CDMO unit out of CPDC and turned it into what we call now AtomV. So that story was extremely successful because our CEO, Bruno Paquin, managed to raise more than 90 million funding at that point of a Series A by Avigo Healthcare, but also we are now expanding that portfolio today, which is dedicated to building our new state-of-the-art facility that you see just behind me here. This is a real photo that is what I call truly one of the cutting-edge facilities that exist in North America as a CDMO that is dedicated to the GMP manufacturing of radiotherapeutics in Canada, in Hamilton. So just to go to Evan's point here, us as leaders in this industry, we're considered to be the go-to CDMO today, thanks to all the legacy and history that we've built in our roots at CPDC. And now we continue as AtomV and work with major companies, 3 RLT, big players, as well as many big, medium, small size biotechs. and we have established a very rich portfolio of not only developing methods and processes for many of products that have made it to phases 1 to 3, late phase clinical trials. One of them even is commercial today, and we are heading towards the commercial manufacturing of these radiotherapeutics that we're expecting to hit the market in the next 5 to 10 years. So because we celebrate Theranostics today, I want to just point that out, that through our rich sort of history, we have built experiences in working with versatile number of isotopes, and that encompassed, diagnostic isotopes, F-18, gallium-68, indium-111, zirconium, you name it. And then now, of course, we're expanding into all the therapeutic isotopes. You've heard lutetium-177 from Travis, but of course we work on alpha emitters, expanding to the emerging new ones like astatine-211, lead-212. So that pipeline is only increasing with time. And obviously, by building that experience with working with theranostic pairs, because we obviously have a lot of our sponsors who come to us with those pairs asking, for our expertise and offering those services to support them in developing, validating methods and processes for these assets and bring them to the clinic with those clients so that we can hit successful milestones towards reaching the market with them. And that's where AtomV is extremely well positioned in today's market. And hopefully we'll have more time. I want to pass it more to the panelists to say more about themselves, but hopefully we'll have more time to discuss how we're positioned in today's radiotheranostics emerging industry.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gadir.
Thank
Rob,
you.
I'll come to you next, continuing to move down the isotope supply chain, as it worked out very nicely with this group of panelists. So Southwest Exposures has led the development of innovative disruptive shielding technologies, enabling the safe transportation and delivery of theranostic isotopes across North America. As the founder of SWE, could you share what led you to found the company and how your products have enabled that kind of theranostics delivery and pipeline?
Thanks, Evan. Real pleasure to be here today on World Theranostics Day. I'm really quite pleased to be invited to participate in this panel with my illustrious co-panelists. Thank you to the CNIC for hosting this event. My background is as a frontline nuclear medicine technologist. Throughout my career, I have worked in radiopharmacy. I've worked at the Michener Institute teaching radiopharmacy. I've helped to backstop or hold up a semi-commercial radiopharmacy. As well, I have training in emergency response to nuclear accidents. I was privileged to attend the REACT Center down in Tennessee, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. So I've really had a rich career in nuclear medicine. It's circumstance that I started Southwest. At the time in 2015, somebody asked me to help them to find shielding for I-131, which coincidentally is the very first theranostic agent in nuclear medicine and one of the oldest isotopes that we use clinically and therapeutically. So it was really just happenstance that somebody asked me about shielding. That led me into a sequence of cascading rabbit holes, if you will. First I went into sourcing tungsten, and then I developed a team of mechanical engineers. I met machinists. I've learned about machining. I developed CAD skills. From there, I went into Monte Carlo modeling for radiation safety and dosimetry calculations. All of these seemingly diverse skills and opportunities really coalesce in my deep desire to enhance safe access to care for patients and for my professional colleagues, like my co-panelists. So it's again, I'll use the word circumstance. Southwest Exposures was really just born at the right time. PSMA was booming in the clinical trial space, the emergence of Lutathera for neuroendocrine tumors and PSMA for prostate cancer detection and therapy really created a renaissance in nuclear medicine, theranostics, or medical imaging, molecular imaging. And these new drugs, the new isotopes, they all really demanded a keener focus on radiation shielding, shipping, administration. The CDMOs and the biotech companies really needed to take bring new instrumentation and equipment in to develop these drugs. So it really, particularly in nuclear medicine, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And in short, I'm just lucky.
Excellent. Continuing down the pipeline to the end of the supply chain, if you will, finally to clinical delivery, we'll come to Tammy. Newfoundland and Labrador has emerged as a bit of a hub for isotope innovation on the East Coast. However, Newfoundland and Labrador's unique geography and small population certainly present some unique challenges when it comes to patient delivery, I'm sure. Tammy, could you provide a bit of an overview of how what nuclear medicine services are offered by Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, and highlight how the province is adopting innovative therapies and theranostics?
Thanks, Evan. It's a pleasure to be here on World Theranostics Day and with our co-panelist here. It's an exciting time, I think, for all of us, and it's a pleasure to bring all of this to our members here and highlight the importance of it in our patients, that the difference that it means in their care. Newfoundland does have a very small population. We're located on the eastern point of Canada, but it does encompass a large geography, which makes it sometimes difficult for patients to transverse across the island to obtain services, as well as for getting products in and out of the island. We're made up of one provincial health authority that's divided into 5 different zones. There's a nuclear medicine department in 3 different zones across Newfoundland, one in the western zone, one in the central, and then one currently here in the eastern urban zone. Our western and central zones are smaller departments. They are comprised of 2 SPECT CT cameras, along with 3 nuclear medicine technologist positions. Our eastern urban zone is the largest of our departments in the province, and it's here in the capital city in St. John's. It has 5 SPECT CTs, 1 SPECT camera, 2 bone densities, and 2 PET CTs. Along with that, it has the 21 nuclear medicine technologist positions and 3 nursing positions. So it's a fairly robust department here in St. John's. One of the things I think that all of our programs across the island, as well as from my understanding across Canada and probably right across North America, is challenging currently with human resources and trying to keep all our positions filled. So that's probably the biggest challenge we currently have. We have a lot of vacancies, which I guess causes issues with trying to expand services and keep services running like we would like to. We currently offer a variety of nuclear medicine services in all our departments across the province. But again, due to staffing challenges, we've had to limit certain procedures in certain sites. There's therapies that are done in Western that are just currently being offered iodine, which is like Rob had spoke to, which is our original Theranostics. Here in Eastern, we've sort of developed our program kind of robustly. We moved into a new building back in 2017. We were very fortunate to have the backing of our government and our organization into building us a new facility that we moved into back in 2017, which housed a full nuclear medicine department as well as a cyclotron and radiopharmacy. Our cyclotron was commissioned, and we then started a PET program here in Newfoundland back in 2017. So since starting that, we've offered FDG, dotatate, and PSMA. And of course, along with that, we were very eager to offer our Lutathera and Pluvicto to go with that. So for our therapies, we're currently offering iodine, radium, Pluvicto, and Lutathera. Our next expansion is planning to be the addition of an ammonia program for our cardiology program, and then further on into expanding our PET program in Western. I think for here, we're very open to adopting innovative therapies, working with industry partners, research in developing what we can and what we can offer all the patients across Canada, into developing new therapies for patients. Our program currently works very closely with our oncology department. They work collaboratively with us to determine what's the highest priority that we need to give patients in order to offer the best kind of care for them. So that's currently how our program is set up, is we currently work with them to determine what's the next step that we need to take in order to offer that best service for the patients.
Excellent. That was so thorough, Tammy. Thank you so much for that. I'll maybe come back to Rob now, just kind of touching on the radiation shielding side of things. I presume there's lots of innovation going on. I mean, there's lots of expansion across the Theranostics supply chain. I presume some innovation and expansion on the shielding, packaging, and handling side of things. Could you dive into a little bit of what your products actually are and how they're enabling theranostic delivery?
Thank you so much. There's the door. So nuclear medicine is a wonderful industry, and Tammy can attest to this, that nuclear medicine departments across Canada and across North America, we're like the MacGyvers of medical imaging. So things get a pot where a therapy dose of iodine arrives then becomes some sort of device to hold a syringe shield while you carry it out to your clinical room. And this has always been the case, particularly in the world of SPECT imaging. Now that Theranostics has arrived, we've really changed as a modality. Not only are we diagnostic, we're therapeutic. Theranostics is identified as the fourth emerging pillar of cancer care, and it really has launched nuclear medicine, which is a strange thing. It's like my career through school, where it took me a long time before I finally launched. Nuclear medicine was around for 40-50 years before the birth of Theranostics, which is what we're seeing now. In terms of packaging and shielding, the formulations have changed. So we went from primarily using a 1 ml syringe shield. Now we have formulations up to 30 and 60 ml, which demand new shielding, and also ancillary devices to bring those to the patient bedside. Syringe shield pumps, different devices that we wouldn't normally use. Moving backwards into manufacturing, where we used to use a lot of lead shielding, and some of it was raw lead shielding, that's not compatible with GMP processes, and it's not necessarily compatible with labeling processes. So when you have a hard to source isotope like actinium, you don't want to confound your labeling by having raw lead in your isolator or in your hot cell. The isotopes we're using are all higher energy isotopes, even than the PET isotopes that we're familiar with, and this will resonate with my co-panelists. When we learned about isotopes, we spoke about alpha emitters being able to be shielded with a piece of paper, but nobody's transporting an alpha emitter in a Dixie cup. All of these isotopes have decay chains, and they have daughter isotopes that are high energy beta particles and/or high energy gamma. And back to actinium, the length of the half-life of actinium means that when it's out in shipment, it's all in equilibrium. So you're getting alphas, you're getting betas, you're getting gammas, and we need to account for all of those in how we shield the isotopes. Shameless plug, Southwest is acknowledging the need for, or the development of small molecules labeled antibodies, peptides, which need to be manufactured and delivered in controlled temperature ranges. So recently, we just completed our validation and certification in a collaborative project with Temp-Aid here in Mississauga. We've developed a validated and certified type A package that will hold 2 to 8 degrees for 100 hours. There's no overpack. The package itself is a type A and is ISTA validated. So there are new challenges to the labeling process, new radio labeled conjugates already that require more input than simply packaging technetium products.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. I'll come to
Thank
Travis
you.
next. I know Kinetrix has done some fascinating work on hot cells in particular that maybe you'd like to touch on, Travis.
Sure. And it kind of building on what Rob was speaking about, we've seen a change in the isotope mix. So lutetium is obviously a big focus area. But as you expand the breadth of isotopes to include things like actinium-225, lead-212, in particular, although as Rob mentioned, the isotope, the product isotope themselves aren't necessarily as problematic. As you go up this the manufacturing chain, you're dealing with processes that require shielding very energetic daughter nuclides and parent nuclides. So I think what we're seeing those challenges now and how we approach shielding for hot cells. It's going to be far thicker using different materials to be able to shield the higher energy isotopes. Kinetrix recently installed or is installing a hot cell at Boost Power. It's a very significant, substantial hot cell made, to work on very high volume products. So it's kind of the other end of the spectrum where on the patient product side, you're looking at high volumes but lower amounts of shielding. We're looking at extreme volumes of many terabecquerels, as well as some of the materials that come from the isotope production. So in our case, it's reactor activation of the reactor capsules that we put the isotopes in. But if you're in a cyclotron situation or a LINAC situation, you're going to get a lot of interesting isotopes being produced as well. So I think we're in a space of some new challenges. The use of Monte Carlo modeling, simulations, dose calculations really help keep the operators safe. So when we work with these isotopes for the first time at the intended volumes, we're not getting surprises. So I think more people getting experience in modeling and understanding the isotope decay will help design better and safer devices. In particular, as we're scaling for commercial production and commercial radiopharmaceuticals, it's going to be really key. And then between the actual production and the product manufacturing, transportation on a type B basis is also another challenge. So I encourage to see more people entering the space of developing type B containers. There's a lot more regulations to bring one of those into the marketplace. So for any of our listeners on the call today, if you're interested in type B package development, I think there's going to be a lot of demand in the future. So I think it's a good place to be focusing. So yeah, I think it's shielding, safety aspects cover, right from source isotope all the way to the end of the product supply.
Excellent. Thank you, Travis. Kind of theme of the discussion, I think, so far has been the rapid growth of the sector. Lots of clinical trials, lots of approved and commercial products now available. As the number of approved radiopharmaceutical therapies grows, how must infrastructure and technology evolve? I mean, I think of Atomby, a company that can handle a broad range of isotopes. How can you possibly keep up? Gideo, I'll come to you first.
We're running a marathon speed, that's for sure. And exactly what you said, Evan. We built RMV. The business model of RMV was based on the fact that we projected we are positioned in the perfect momentum to keep up with the growth of our industry. So as we spoke about earlier, our ability to have worked with a number of isotopes and understanding how to radio label a variety of assets with these isotopes gave us that breadth of knowledge and that know-how that we are distinguished by, frankly, in the industry. And I believe as a CDMO, one of our differentiators is obviously the fact that we have this track record and experience, but also we are very flexible and agile, and we listen very carefully to our clients' needs. And as we just heard from our co-panelists, that technology is just immensely being evolved on a daily basis. So we have to keep up, as you said, with it. And our new state-of-the-art facility is built with that in mind. So our clean rooms are purpose-built. We were retrofitted at McMaster, but now we have, designed our facility with all the lessons learned in mind. Scalability is a huge one, as Travis just touched based on, going from low to mid to high throughput, understanding what scale we're going to work with, be it on clinical supply and obviously going to commercial, and adapting to those highly customized needs that we are expecting when we reach those high throughput commercial manufacturing needs. So understanding those requirements, and we have a fantastic team at RMV. That is another differentiator, I have to say, that knows exactly how to adapt to those requirements. Our facility is built being Annex 1 compliant. We spoke about that when you and your team members came to visit us just a few weeks ago. That was very exciting conversation because when clients hear that we are built with Annex 1 compliance in mind, that's a real advantage and benefit, because that's where the industry is going, is understanding the regulatory requirements and assuring your clients that you are abiding by them. And actually, we have foreseen it, and we prepared ourselves even before it came to fruition, just so that we are ahead of the game and we're prepared. So what I can tell you, I think, the emerging isotopes, as we mentioned, obviously having more requests for new alpha emitters, and the lead-212, the astatine-211, being able to, how do we address the astatine-211 supply chain, which is interesting challenge to think about. The lead-212 has the generator aspect, which of course we can build clean rooms around that, but all to say that being open and understanding of what the needs are of your clients and where the industry is going is exactly the combination that you would need to succeed to keep up with the industry.
Excellent. Thank you, Gudea. Before we continue, I just want to remind all of our attendees here today that we are accepting questions in our Q&A function. Having such a great discussion, but I hope we'll leave a little bit of time for some Q&As at the end. So please feel free to use the Q&A button right at the top of your screen and submit any questions if you have them. Tammy, I'll come to you with basically the same question, but coming from a unique perspective, I suppose, as you're obviously here representing Newfoundland Labrador Health Services, the newest CNIC health partner. I'll give you guys a shout out there. But on the healthcare kind of services side of things, how do healthcare leaders, hospitals, work to deliver the highest quality of care possible when all of these emerging isotopes are coming up, all these emerging therapies? It's similar to what I said to Gudea. It must be hard to keep up.
Yeah, I think there's a number of things that, you have to keep in mind and keep on the forefront when all of these new therapy programs are being developed. There's a number of things with facilities that you have to keep in mind with CNSC regulations, a space to house these treatment facilities, even something as mundane as washroom facilities when you're going to shut down a washroom because you have therapies being administered that day. How does that logistically work for the rest of your department? Appropriately shielded treatment spaces and how that is, I guess, approved through the CNSC. That all has to be looked at, I guess, in advance because it's very hard to retrofit, given, oh, we want to start doing this therapy today. What do we have to do it? So the planning portion, I think, is very important. And, anyone out there that's planning a building, I think, especially in today's market, has to look in advance and how that is actually planned out, because I know our building is only, not quite 10 years old, and we've already gone back and taken rooms that weren't being purposed for therapy, and our therapy program has grown so quickly that we've gone back and repurposed rooms into therapy rooms and had to do shielding assessments and make modifications. So I think that's really important for facilities to do, is plan in advance and ensure that they have enough space to house these, because I think our therapy programs, Theranostics, is only growing, and this is just the beginning of how we're going to have to deliver these services. Along with that, I think, historically, there's always been a process for new chemotherapy drugs, new pathways, I think, for patients to receive these treatments, but nuclear medicine was never in that same department. I think we operated as a small department, and now that these therapies are on the market and we are looking for funding, I think we're still struggling to find a pathway on how we fit into that process of how do we go and request funding when that's normally probably done through an oncology process. I know for us, we've had to incorporate ourselves into the oncology department, in which their normal, I guess, process for asking for funding for chemotherapy drugs, they've now, expanded it to include Theranostics, because that's the process of how those things always happened. And I think we need a definite process, because while currently right now, those are all oncology drugs, someday that's not just going to be an oncology drug. And how do we develop that program for nuclear medicine? Because, we do need to be able to offer those services, and trying to navigate those pathways sometimes becomes quite lengthy and offers a delay, both regulatory and in the approval process. I think, we also need a better data analytics to try and give us a scope of how many patients are out there that are going to require our services. I know in the therapies that we've offered, we've sort of had numbers that have been provided to us by both industry and by our own data analytics in-house that have told us that we would, probably look at a number that we would receive on a yearly basis. And that has quickly grown as soon as our program started. Those numbers has grown. So even on a planning perspective of how we're going to implement this, maybe, you would think you would offer this service 1 day a week, and you quickly realize that your schedule cannot only offer 1 day a week. You're going to have to offer 2 days a week, morning and afternoons. You're quickly going to have to expand. So I think those data analytics and how you can pull those numbers will be very helpful in the planning process. And then, continue collaboration with the people like we have on our panel, with industry partners, regulators. I think when new therapies are being developed and implemented, how we roll those out equitably right across the country is very important to our patients.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tammy. You touched on literally the next question I was going to go to, which is so great, on collaboration. Maybe I'll come through the panel as I introduced you, and we can do a bit of a rapid fire run through of the questions, if that works. Obviously, we've said a handful of times this morning, the industry is rapidly growing. That requires coordination, I presume. It requires collaboration across the supply chain. What does that look like in isotopes? Are we effectively collaborating across the supply chain, and are there areas perhaps that need work? Travis, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, the space is highly complex. I often think it's a bit of a miracle we can get these drugs to patients in the first place, given that you're really trying to ship ice cubes around the world and do it safely and effectively. So no one company can do it all. And we have specialties in our different areas. So the level of collaboration between isotope providers to manufacturers to people in the supply chain delivering the products is essential to just get the drug to the patient. And then, of course, we can't forget the handoff into the clinic, so that patients can receive the clinical trial products or commercial products. So we're here at the CNIC. So Canada, of course, we have a huge strength in the industry, and we have all the essential ingredients to be able to really take a product from conception to commercialization. I don't think there's a lot of places around the world that can do so. So we're very fortunate to do that and to be able to have a full, secure supply chain across the country. And we've also, I think, have the advantage of, we kind of got in early. So Canada is a bit unique in that extent. And I think it comes from our foundation history with the NRU reactor, providing isotope production, being leaders in molybdenum production early on was part of that. So we have a lot of talent here in Canada to be able to really support the entire supply chain and take products to the clinic as well. So there's a lot of opportunity. I think it's essential. And that's really going to be a driver to get more products into commercial state. Where I think we'll see a little bit of change, though, is that as products get further down the pipeline towards commercial, they need the big pharmas, the Novartis of the world, and others. Not saying that they don't wish to collaborate in their pipelines. There's lots of that. But as they go commercial, they need to insource. And we see that trend. So it's going to be consolidation of all of the activities from isotope production right to the finished product being brought under one house. So I think we'll see a bit of a juxtaposition of how things work for large-scale commercial production versus products from preclinical to phase 3. And I think really the collaboration is in those early days in getting products to the commercial stage.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much, Travis. Good to go ahead on the same question on collaboration.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan. So from a CDMO perspective, I concur with Travis. Definitely preparation for commercial scale is a big one for us. But I also think logistics is huge. I always think if you manufacture those drugs is one area, but you need to make sure you deliver them just in time to be injected in those patients. And that's an endeavor that if you can't do it, then obviously you don't succeed. And we're blessed to be able to do it to 28 countries today. We've, done 4,000 plus doses so far successfully and more to come. But I do think that need will expand. And thinking of Theranostics, actually, that's an interesting challenge because you're dealing with, shorter lived, like on the gallium, it's 68 minutes, right? Versus lutetium and the actinium, you have a bit more luxury there in terms of time. But how do you organize that type of distribution, the centralized versus decentralized type of model? I mean, we've had clients who have come to us to develop and validate their theranostic pairs, but then obviously to set up a success with their gallium-68 based diagnostic, they would need to set them up at radiopharmacies that are closer to clinical sites, right? So that if the growth of radiotheranostics would call more upon these type of models, and I think we need to be more prepared for that as the number of theranostic pairs will increase. And on the policy-making side, I really do think that, yes, Canada is a leader, but more presence of manufacturers around the table to speak to what the nature and the complexity of those drugs are to make. I mean, that's huge. They're not typical drugs that you have inventories on shelves that sit for years. Those policymakers need to understand what we do, and I feel like there's still a void there. Although I know we're making good progress, but there's definitely more room to improve, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Rob, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I think Canada has a lot to offer, as Travis and Gadira have already mentioned, and we've learned from experience. We're a vast country with a small population, so we're very accustomed to just-in-time deliveries, shipping large distances. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. So we have all of the assets, the skill sets across the country. There's the CNIC, there's the CMIE that bring all of these skill sets together, which is very important for us as a country, and very important for exporting our skills and our products. Perhaps one of the areas of focus that will help us grow further and faster is more attention being paid to health economics, to demonstrate the impact of these drugs. On a personal level, on an individual level, these therapies are making a huge difference. The diagnostics and the therapeutics are making a huge difference. We need to demonstrate the health economic benefit of delivering these drugs in a country where it takes 10 to 15 years to build new hospitals. By the time we build the new hospitals, to Tammy's point, we're rebuilding the hospitals. So to allow for decentralized delivery of these drugs, better access to care spread throughout the country, can actually benefit the healthcare budgets.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob. And Tammy, you originally touched on the collaboration note, so I'll throw it back to you to have the last word on collaboration.
Yeah, I think, collaboration starts from the very beginning when these, products are being made right until, the products are being given to our patients. So collaboration starts from one end of the production right until the delivery. So, you start off right from, collaborating with your industry partners to ensure you can receive those products, and down to your clinical side where you're ensuring that you're getting the patients at the right time and you're getting the right patients there in order to ensure that they're receiving the right treatment that they need. I think, the collaboration that I see a lot that I feel that we're working on is on the logistics side. We're dealing with these isotopes that are very short-lived, us being on the eastern side and dealing with, time differences and being on an island with restricted access to, transportation. There really is only a couple of ways that you can transport these type of radiopharmaceuticals throughout Canada. So I think that's something that needs to change and needs to grow. In order to be able to deliver these in a timely manner to sites that need access to them. I think for people who are on the front lines that have patients who they have to respond to, knowing where those products are along the chain is very important. Knowing if those products have been released, if they are en route, if they're, going to be delivered on time, means a great deal to patients who are here waiting for that drug to arrive and not knowing if it's going to arrive and if they've got to travel back to their hometown, which could be, 6-8 hours away. So I think, collaboration amongst all of us to ensure that the communication is clear and open is very important.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tammy. I did see we had a handful of questions come in, and of course, the problem with these webinars is that there's not enough time. Well, I see someone's put their hand up, but unfortunately, the software doesn't allow attendees to turn their mics on. So I'm so sorry that we can't get to your question, but I do have another question here. It's kind of pointed towards Gadira, I think, and since we're running out of time, I'll maybe just let you briefly address this if you can, Gadira, and then we can conclude. On the Annex 1 compliant radiopharmacy side of things, Shannon Allen in the chat submitted this question, asking, what's the one design aspect do you think most teams underestimate when preparing for new theranostics?
We would need our quality SME here, but I can tell you that we've started focusing on building a robust contamination control strategy. Actually, that is the kind of one of the routes towards Annex 1. We started that at CPDC, which is where we came from, and I believe that was a key area for us to build compliance towards these sterile processes. Just by demonstrating that you have taken that step, and visiting what the Annex 1 guidelines are dictating today clearly shows your clients that you are thinking ahead and that you are building a strategy and designing your facility around that. So I'm not sure. Sorry, who was the lady? What was
It was Shannon.
Shannon, wherever Shannon you went through, Shannon, we can have a discussion on this offline, but it's a very interesting challenge that I believe all of us will eventually have to cross the bridge to abide by the regulations. But just in my opinion, taking the steps towards it is already showing huge progress to your clients and to your partners.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kadir. Sorry we couldn't get to more questions, folks, but this is what happens when we have such an engaging panel. And a great topic to discuss is that the discussion is endless. Before we wrap up, I just want to, first of all, thank our distinguished panelists, Travis, Kadir, Rob, and Tammy, for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you all. I see lots of messages coming in the chat, which I hope means that we did a nice job and had a good discussion. But really want to emphasize how grateful we are to work with all of you and all of our CNIC members, of course. And thank you again for joining us for this great discussion. Thank you also to all of you who attended. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your morning to learn a little bit more about how Canada is enabling innovative cancer care and theranostics. Before we sign off, I do want to flag a few upcoming events and opportunities to engage within the CNIC network. So first one's first. Our next webinar, it's very exciting. Hosted collaboratively, this is a new initiative. We're hosting collaboratively the CNIC, the Canadian Association of Nuclear Medicine, and the Canadian Association of Medical Radiation Technologists, addressing something that came up in today's discussion. A really critical issue for the sector, I think, is the shortage of nuclear medicine technologists. We're not convinced that we're going to solve it in one discussion, but we definitely would like to raise awareness within the CNIC network, and we're very glad to partner with some other leading organizations within the sector to raise awareness and hopefully discuss some potential solutions. Next up, the CNIC Awards, one of my favorite events that we host every year. New venue and an elevated experience this year. It's on April 28th, the first day of the CNA conference in Ottawa. We're so excited to celebrate the innovation that we see across the isotope supply chain. Some really, really excellent folks will be receiving awards this year. So invites have been sent out to CNIC member organizations. It is an invite-only event just because of capacity, and everyone would like to join us to celebrate these great leaders, I'm sure. So keep an eye out on your inbox if you haven't already received your invitations. Speaking of CNA, we're very excited that this year at CNA 2026, the CNIC has been working with our friends at CNA to lead the development of a panel that will be on the main stage, the Canada stage of the CNA conference. So encouraging to see so much isotope discussions happening at the CNA conference these days. That will be on April 29th at 1:45 p.m. And we're very grateful again to some CNIC member organizations who will be joining us for that discussion. And the inevitable one that has been a feature in CNIC webinars for a few months now, a big one, the Canadian Radiotheranostics Leader Summit 2026, the conference that just keeps getting bigger and bigger, thanks to all of you who are in the call with us today. We are over 60% sold out of registrations for the Leader Summit. I'm sure many of you are aware, but in case you're not, it brings together about 500 leaders from across the Canadian and international isotope supply chain. We have a lot of great feedback on the conference, which is always encouraging. I think it's my favorite thing we do every year for sure. From networking to really insightful discussions, presentations, It's the place to be. So that's on May 25th and May 26th, 2026. Grateful to work with some of those leading academic and healthcare organizations that you see on your screen to put this conference on. So it's not to be missed, but you have to secure your registration very soon because they are flying off the shelf, as the old saying goes. With that, and seeing it's 11:59, I try to keep the timing as close as possible on these things. I want to once again thank you all for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to chat with our wonderful panelists, and we appreciate all of you who have tuned into the discussion to celebrate or mark World Theranostics Day. With that, we will sign off and say thank you, and we will see you on April 23rd for the Nuclear Medicine Technologist webinar. Until then, bye-bye.